Welcome back to another explainer. You know, I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're diving into something that feels, honestly, a lot like a superhero origin story, but for the business of fashion. Today, we're unpacking a really revolutionary model called Ghost Atelier. Together, we're going to set the stage for an epic battle against the fashion industry's oldest, most toxic villain, upfront risk. If you've ever had a brilliant idea for a brand, but you were just terrified of the costs, you are definitely going to want to pay close attention to this. There's this saying going around right now, the old way was never a business model, it was a bet. And wow, doesn't that perfectly capture our antagonist? For decades, the traditional system has practically demanded that creators operate on nothing but a hunch. I mean, think about it. You had to guess right, drop huge amounts of capital up front, commit to massive factory minimums, and then just sit back and pray the market actually liked your vision 6 months down the line. It's this vicious cycle where emerging designers, especially the ones with the most original ideas but the least access to capital, have just been dying on that guess. You end up with stock nobody ordered, fabric that's already cut, and capital that is completely gone. But when you contrast those old, frankly villainous tactics with our hero's new superpower, the difference is just night and day. The old way meant guessing, bleeding cash, and praying you didn't end up with a garage full of unsold clothes. Ghost Atelier completely flips the script. It is literally paid for before it gets made. We're talking about a demand-first, frictionless blueprint that actually waits for proof from the market, and then it moves at the speed of certainty. It completely wipes out design risk and capital risk. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this. Ghost Atelier kills the guess. And it's not just some clever concept on paper, it is a completely vertically integrated ecosystem. You can kind of think of it like the ghost kitchen model in the restaurant world. You know, a restaurant without a dining room or a host stand, just a kitchen and a delivery bag. Ghost Atelier applies that exact same logic to fashion. You don't need to own a fancy design studio. You don't need to buy a factory. You don't need a crazy expensive warehouse lease or to commit to a massive threshold of minimum orders. This shared platform gives you all of the infrastructure without any of the crippling overhead. Okay, so how does this actually translate into a real workflow? Well, think of this as our comic book training montage. Step 1 is design. You bring your vision, and an AI design engine returns a full concept and, this is critical, a buildable pattern pack. Step 2 is reveal. You take that collection directly to real customers before a single yard of fabric is ever cut. Step 3 is prove it. You open up deposits and the market votes with actual money, not just social media likes. Step 4 is produce. Once you hit a predefined threshold of paid deposits, production kicks off, sized exactly to those confirmed orders. And finally, step 5 is fulfill. The orders ship straight to the customers who funded them in the first place. Empowering all of this is the secret headquarters, a comprehensive operations hub. This is a shared platform that gives you turnkey infrastructure. We're talking an AI sourcing agent that matches your specific vision with a vetted global factory network. There's a built-in storefront to process your sales, and a fully integrated 3PL fulfillment center that handles all the warehousing and shipping. It takes designing, making, and selling and rolls it all into one single, powerful pipeline. Now let's talk numbers, because the financial power-ups provided by the shared network are massive. Because you're tapping into shared infrastructure, all that painful overhead and the sneaky extra fees of traditional logistics, they just vanish. To put that into perspective, a brand shipping just 200 orders a month sees an average of 45% savings on fulfillment. Jump up to 1,000 orders, and you're saving about 47%. Even scaling up to 5,000 orders, you're still looking at a 37% cost reduction. It wipes out extra receiving fees, pick fees, residential surcharges, the whole 9 yards. What you see is exactly what you pay. All right, so we get the superpower, right? Now let's actually see it in action. We're going to look at 5 distinct founders who are all using this exact same pipeline and all experiencing zero guesswork. Let's dive into exactly how different personas wield this ecosystem to pull off their own spectacular business victories. First up is Amara, our solo founder. Her vision is this gorgeous fusion of West African wax print tradition mixed with structured European tailoring. She's got a great audience, about 40,000 followers. But here's the kicker. She has never once spoken to a factory. No way. She simply described her vision to the platform's AI design engine, and in return, she got a full concept and that all-important buildable pattern pack. We're talking a factory-ready spec, not just a pretty 3D rendering. And the result? Her stunning Sanyan Stride collection. She took that pattern pack, turned around, and opened deposit windows to her followers. She set a threshold, and 68 paid deposits cleared. Only then did production actually begin. She didn't have to design a single seam herself, she didn't risk a dime of her own upfront capital, and best of all, she didn't end up with a rack of unsold stock. She built a brand funded entirely by the people who actually wanted it. Next, let's talk about Deja. Deja is a boutique owner who was, frankly, incredibly tired of watching her profit margins walk out the door while reselling other people's labels. But she didn't want the massive risk of suddenly becoming a traditional manufacturer overnight. She just wanted a private label capsule built around her store's specific vibe. So, using the Ghost Atelier network, she sized her production run to her actual customers' confirmed pre-orders. She completely bypassed those scary traditional factory minimums that normally would have forced her to gamble on, say, 500 totally untested units. Now, this next use case is super fascinating. Meet Kwame, a heritage brand bringing his incredible Adir Baroque collection to life. Kwame represents 3 generations of traditional Adira dyeing. Now, the big fear with using AI or global manufacturing is always, is this going to flatten my culture into cheap decoration? But the ecosystem treats Kwame's craft tradition as precise engineering and philosophy, not just a surface-level ornament. You can really see the respect for the craft in the exquisite detailing, especially those bound on eco-medallions. The platform's design layer acts as a shield, protecting his cultural integrity. The pattern pack format carries the provenance and respect right into the actual build spec. So this allows Kwame to reach global buyers with a factory-ready specification without ever compromising or flattening his art. And remember, he only reaches them once. Real demand has already said yes with a deposit. Let's quickly hit on these last 2 personas, which I like to call the rapid strikes. First, the creator drop. This ecosystem gives creators the superpower to launch instantly. There is absolutely 0 patience required for that old, agonizing 8-month traditional cycle. Deposits open the exact day the concept drops, and production starts the very moment that threshold clears. Then you have the retail buyer. Think regional boutiques looking for real exclusives, not just seasonal leftovers. Because this model is small batch by design, scarcity isn't some fake marketing trick. It is the actual reality of the supply. I want you to just burn this number into your mind right now. 0. 0 is the new amount of design risk, because the spec is buildable from day one. 0 is the new amount of capital risk, because manufacturing absolutely never starts on sheer optimism anymore. This ecosystem moves exclusively at the speed of certainty. And honestly, this is the climax of our origin story. Just look at what disappears when you get rid of that upfront risk. You have 0 fixed overhead, no studio, no factory, no idle staff sitting around. You go from a concept to a physical shelf in weeks, not seasons. Your collections are demand-proven, not demand-guessed. And you have one single unified pipeline to design, make, and sell without having to duct tape 3 different vendors together yourself. The crippling barriers to entry have literally been demolished. Which brings us to our final, somewhat dramatic cliffhanger for today's explainer. The gap between saying I have an idea and I have a collection on a shelf already selling used to be measured in years and usually required 6 figures of capital you probably didn't have. Today, it's measured in a pattern pack and a deposit threshold. The barrier is gone. The deposit window is open right now, and it's being filled by someone. So the only question left is, who moves first? Is it going to be your collection or the next founders? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible model today. Stop guessing, start building, and I will see you in the next explainer.